Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is episode 30 of High Street Sports. My name is Chris. This is John Ross. John Ross, it is championship weekend in college football. Things are moving along in the NFL. We had a full slate of games last week, a lot of excitement happening there. What do you think is going on in the college football world?
Yeah, exciting championship week. A lot of college football playoff implications this week. NFL, exciting as ever. Lots of good teams right now. No one really separating themselves, honestly. So looking forward to, as we get toward the end of the year, what the playoff seeds look like. Sorry we missed you guys last week. Thanksgiving and all the holidays and travel just kind of screwed us up. But we're back this week. Talk about some, unfortunately, the last week of the college football regular season with championship week. But hey, we still got a lot of NFL, a lot of bowl games, and college football playoff coming up. So we still got a lot of football left for people.
A lot of intrigue, even though the sad time of college football season is it's getting to the good stuff, but it is winding down. But there's a lot more NFL football, and things are going to heat up on that front as well as we move along here. So we'll just jump right into it. As we mentioned in the open, it is college football conference championship weekend here. A lot at stake. I think with the way that everything shook out last week, Michigan was able to get the win over Ohio State and Ann Arbor. And the way the college football playoff rankings kind of shook themselves out, Ohio State at 6, Oregon at 5, Bama lurking back there at number 8. It's going to be interesting to see how all this shakes out. So we'll kind of run down with these conference championship games, and then we'll give a short outlook of what the college football playoff might look like, and then we'll get on into the normal NFL chatter as well. So we'll jump in going right along here. The first game I have written down here is the Pac-12 championship game. That is a rematch. Number 5, Oregon versus number 3, Washington. Oregon is a 10-point favorite in that one. That one is in Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. There's a lot riding on the line here. A lot of Heisman chatter between these two quarterbacks. So there's going to be a lot on the table there, as well as college football playoff implications. Washington was able to pull out the win the first go round here. What do you think about the Ducks' chances to pull off what by ranking standard would be an upset, but by the point spread here with Oregon, a 10-point favorite, which I found to be kind of shocking. But I guess if you look at the last probably month or so for Washington, they've had a lot of close calls. So what are your initial thoughts here on this Oregon versus Washington rematch?
Ever since they beat Oregon that first go round, Washington's kind of been bend, don't break. Definitely that kind of mentality since then. They haven't really blown anyone off the field since then. A lot of close games for them. Michael Penix Jr. hasn't been setting the college football world on fire like he did to start the year. I mean, he's still getting it done. He still has that receiver room with Rome Odunze, and he's getting McMillan back this week, I believe, too, who did not play in that first Oregon-Washington matchup. And Oregon, they've done everything they were supposed to since that loss. They've pretty much mowed down anybody that got in their way. Bo Nix is playing really well. You got to think if Oregon wins this game and he performs really well, that might lock up the Heisman for him. He does have that on Jayden Daniels, and I do think Jayden is deserving of the Heisman, but the one thing he doesn't have an extra game to play like Bo Nix does. So, like you said, Heisman implications in this one, especially Michael Penix Jr. too. He could have a hell of a game and win that award too. But the -10 line is surprising a little bit. I thought it'd be maybe -3.5, -3, something like that. As far as I'll pick the Ducks in this one. They're just playing so much better right now than Washington, in my opinion. But at the same time, Washington, like I said, bend don't break. And you wonder if they have a little bit more magic left in them to get back to the college football playoff. Oregon's secondary, I know, is banged up this week. So that'll be interesting we talked about it all season, those receivers that Washington has. That'll be an interesting storyline to follow, but I do think the Ducks will get it done in this one.
Yeah, it's like I said, that 10 points in Oregon's favor does seem like a lot, but you have to think that maybe that neutral site has a lot to do with that as well. It's going to be a big game, and both of these leaders of this team, both of these respective teams, are at the quarterback position, and that's hands down. I don't think you can really argue that either way. A lot of playmakers on both sides of the ball for both of these teams, but it will come down to who plays better between Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix. And I think if you look, and I'll agree with you there, I think Oregon has been the better team since they took that loss to Washington. Washington kind of squeaked that one out a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see where Oregon's at and where Washington's at and which version of Washington you're going to get. With these close games that they've had, and the last time out, Michael Penix leaving the field after Washington got that win in the Apple Cup with a jacket over his head. It was just kind of strange. You don't know if he's dealing with some sort of injury or just wanted to get off the field without having to interact with people as they were rushing the field. But that was a bit of a head scratcher to me, something that really kind of stuck out. But it'll come down to the quarterback play and which one can live up to the moment. I can't remember, as big of a game as this in the Pac-12 in quite some time with the college football playoff implications and Heisman implications.
Whoever wins this one is definitely getting in.
Yeah. I think
and it's on Friday too, I think.
Yeah, I believe it is too. So it's going to be a big game. The eyes of the college football world will surely be on Las Vegas for that one. It's as big of a game as we have this weekend, so should be an exciting one.
Hopefully it's a kind of hope it's a shootout, last hurrah for the Pac-12. So hopefully it's a game worthy of that.
Yeah, it'll be wild to see the Pac-12 swan song and just exactly what this game means. So big moment for the conference as they go out, and a big moment for both of these teams as they get set to join a new conference. So interesting game with a lot of storylines there in Las Vegas. Moving right along, the next game I have here is the Big 12 championship game. This one between number 18 Oklahoma State and number 7 Texas. This game is at AT&T Stadium in Dallas, with Texas being a 15.5-point favorite in this one. What do you think about Texas? Do you think that with a win here, they would have a chance to make it in? And how much help do you think they would need?
They definitely control their own destiny. They took care of business last week, 57-7 against Texas Tech. They've done everything they were supposed to ever since that loss to Oklahoma. And they do have that big win at Bama on their resume. It looks even better now. Texas controls their own destiny. I do think even if they win, they need help elsewhere. I think in the form of a Florida State loss, they would need that help. Texas favored minus 15.5 in this one. The Pokes come into this, I think, ranked 18th or something. They've had a really good season, surprised a lot of people with won the last Bedlam game against Oklahoma with them going to the SEC. So good season for them. I do think Texas is playing really well right now. Quinn Ewers is getting back in the groove. So give me the Longhorns in this one.
Yeah, I think I'll echo that one too. I like a healthy Quinn Ewers, I think, is one of the better quarterbacks in college football. And it's really unfortunate that he had to deal with some of that injury in the middle of the season. But as you mentioned, he's kind of heating back up and getting back to form for the Horns, who will need him in this game to really cement Texas's resume if they want to make it back into the college football playoff. Scenario there, and it's really kind of interesting to think about. When you look back a month ago or so, people were talking about a potential rematch between Oklahoma and Texas in the Big 12 championship game, and then Oklahoma has just absolutely imploded on themselves in that last month. So a big opportunity for Oklahoma State here. Don't know if they have enough to beat Texas, but crazier things have happened, and again, these neutral site games, really all bets are off. So we'll see what happens there, but I think I will pick Texas in that one. Don't know if they cover. I'm thinking more of a 10-13 point game or something in there. Obviously Texas has the firepower to cover, but we'll see what happens. But it should
be known that all of our preseason college football playoff picks are in play to still make it in. I guess that's a win in of itself.
It is. A few of them are long shots, but there's
Texas needs help. Ohio State, unfortunately, needs a lot of help. That's a win for me.
Go us. moving on, the next game here, the SEC championship game, which by all accounts might be the most. I mean, Oregon and Washington should be exciting, but when it's Georgia versus Alabama in Atlanta, Georgia, with all that's riding on it, and I don't think there's been a team that has jumped higher than from spot number 6 to make it into the college football playoff in the last week of the season, like Bama is trying to do. But when you really look at what Alabama's been able to do since week 1 of the season, and even since that Texas loss, they've been able to put it together, and Jalen Milroe and company have been able to find out how to win some games, and they've won a lot of close games. And Auburn's got to be kicking themselves, man, after the way they kind of gave that game to Alabama last week. But credit where credit's due. Alabama and Nick Saban found a way to win another game, and that's what's made them who they are over the last 15 years. So they're back again.
I'm sure they're happy. Auburn decided to play man coverage in a 4th and goal from the 31.
Yeah, that
was a choice.
It's a choice, and it
hell of a throw by Milroe though to find that dude in the back corner of the end zone.
Yeah, it's awful defense by that corner, but hell of a throw by Milroe. That was. We watched that game together, and that play, we kind of looked at each other and we were like, "Holy shit! Did that really just happen?"
Yeah.
But it did, and here we are. So, number 1 Georgia versus number 8 Alabama in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia is a 5.5-point favorite in this game. Georgia did struggle last week against Georgia Tech as well. Not really sure, what to make of that, and how much to really, use that game to impact the way I think about this one. But what do you think about the Bulldogs and Tide?
Yeah, I found out they were actually missing Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey last week. Probably their 2 best receivers. So that may contribute to that a little bit. Still closer than we thought it would be against the Jackets. But yeah, Georgia's favored -6 in this one. This is as big as it gets right here. I mean, Bama's coming in hot. They've gotten better and better, it seems, ever since that loss to Texas. Like you said, a scare last week, but you can kind of throw the record books out the window. It's right when it's rivalry week, especially in the Iron Bowl, it feels like. Mm-hmm. And then Georgia, they've had quite a gauntlet over the last month, more so than we thought they would early in the season, and they've answered every question people have asked. They've responded to every test, took care of Ole Miss and Tennessee handily, won a close game, kind of a tighter contest with Missouri. They're the best team in the country in that now, in my opinion. I'm not sure what the status of McConkey and Bowers is this week. I think they should have them back, and if they do, I'm going to pick Georgia, but there's a tiny voice in the back of my head saying, "You idiot, you're going to doubt that old man again." I don't know. Bama's just feels like they're hot at the right time. Milroe's playing really well. The defense is playing well. Hopefully Georgia does what LSU didn't and puts a spy on Jalen Milroe, because he could beat you with his arm, beat you with his legs. But yeah, I will. I'll take the Dogs though to win this one, win their 3rd straight SEC championship, and go to their 4th straight now college football playoff, and try for a 3rd straight title.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that we're here talking about this Alabama team, which everybody going into the season, including myself, was kind of under the assumption that this might be Nick Saban's worst Alabama team in quite some time, and here they are sitting with 1 loss, ranked number 8, playing in the SEC championship game, with a chance to maybe jump back into the college football playoffs. So it's unbelievable. Really speaks to the coach that Nick Saban is. I don't really think there's any more doubting, if Nick Saban's the greatest college football coach of all time, because I think if he was able to win this SEC championship game and, somehow find a way back in the college football playoff with a down team to Alabama standards, that would be, quite a crowning achievement for Nick Saban, whether or not he were to win a national championship or not. And again, on the other side of that, Georgia, who, looked not to the level of the Georgia teams of the past 2 years at the midway point of this season, but they found a way to really dominate the last month or so of the season for them. Had a chance for Missouri to have an upset there, but they overcame that. And last week, for what it is, and the injuries and the rivalry with Georgia Tech, or for whatever that's worth, it says a lot about Georgia and where they've been able to come to. So this should be a huge game. And I don't know, man. Part of me tells me that this is going to be like a last second field goal or some kind of big play at the end of the game to seal it for either one of these teams. And it really is hard to pick against Alabama in the situation. And depending on whether or not Brock Bowers is able to go, I think that to me is a way bigger loss if Bowers can't go versus if McConkey can't go. No disrespect to McConkey, but there's just no discounting what Bowers means to that offense. And
I think Saban has one loss in SEC championship games.
Yeah, which is also an incredible stat in and of itself when you look at the teams that he's played too. So, Nick Saban knows how to coach in these games, and not to say that Kirby Smart does not, but there's a little added experience there for Nick Saban in Alabama. So, man, I don't know. This is a little bit of a coin flip game.
I pick Georgia. I will not be surprised one little bit if Bama wins.
Yeah, I think I might play devil's advocate here. And just the part of me that wants sheer chaos in the college football playoff, I think I'm maybe lean towards Alabama, but the thought of having two SEC teams in there kind of makes me want to vomit with
that's my question. Like, if Georgia loses, they still have a case, but if Georgia loses and Texas wins, what do you do there? Because Texas beat Bama at Bama, and Georgia lost to them at a neutral site. I know Georgia's had a tougher schedule, but.
So, all right, let's do this. I'll put a pin in this conversation with this SEC championship game for just a second. I'm gonna go ahead and pick Georgia. However, let's circle back to that at the end with that same question that you asked, because I have the ACC championship game listed here last because I wanted to talk about that one last for that same reason. So let's put a pin in that for just a second. Talk about the foregone conclusion that is the Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis, Indiana, at Lucas Oil Stadium between number 2 Michigan and number 16 Iowa. So Michigan, proved a lot of people wrong. I don't know if it were, just the Ohio State fan base or if it were the national media or the national college football fan base, but they went out and they won a tough game against Ohio State. They were able to make plays when Ohio State couldn't. Their defense held up just a little bit longer, and
willing to take risks too, like we talked about before. This.
They were willing to put the backup quarterback in and get a little spark on the ground and throw that halfback pass with Donovan Edwards.
All the fourth downs they went for too.
Yeah, they were the aggressor, and in a game where really, to me, it came down to a few different plays, and Michigan was able to pull the win out, and credit to them for that. So we'll see what happens, going forward here. I don't suspect they lose this game. I don't think Iowa's
favored by 21.5.
Yeah, they don't have a chance to. Iowa's offense doesn't have a chance to keep up with Michigan in this game. Michigan's defense is too good. Iowa's defense is good as well, but Michigan's defense is too good for Iowa I don't really see the Hawkeyes even having a chance to move the ball on the Wolverines.
Yeah, It's the easiest one out of all these championship games. Pick Michigan. Iowa's defense is really good, but the only reason. And not the only reason, but one of the big reasons they're here in this game is because the Big Ten West absolutely sucks.
Yeah. Wisconsin was awful. Nebraska was horrible. And so, it's just Iowa was kind of there by default. Weirdest 10-2 season I think I've ever seen in my life. They won last week on a walk-off field goal with a walk-on kicker. So if that tells you anything about what Iowa's season's gone like to end up 10-2, it's a wild 10-2, but here they are playing for a conference championship game. So, Michigan, I think, wins that one. So now moving on to the ACC championship game. It's number 14 Louisville and number 4 Florida State. Florida State's a 2-point favorite in this game. This game is in Charlotte at Bank of America Stadium. Here's the question.
At least a couple of good teams will play there.
Yikes. Florida State being a 2-point favorite and only a 2-point favorite was kind of shocking to me. I understand the quarterback situation is what it is. That feels a little bit low for me. I don't know how much confidence I have in Louisville to go out and win that game. I'm interested to hear
Especially
your
after
thoughts on the
last
game.
week.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this game. I'm going to go ahead and pick Florida State. I don't think they lose this game. I think there's a chance that they can. I don't think they will because that quarterback showed. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but the quarterback showed that he was able to go in and beat Florida. And Florida, albeit not a great season on their behalf, but they've had a chance to win 3 of the last 4 games that they've played.
That's a rivalry game in Gainesville too. So
yeah. So that's a tough game to win. Tough game to win. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this game, and then we'll circle back to that what if conversation for all these games. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Noles in this one. I do think that team is going to rally around that quarterback. And look, we've come this far. I know we lost our best player, Jordan Travis, our quarterback. Let's finish this undefeated season. And before we even get to the conversation about the football playoff, if they win and go undefeated, they deserve to get in. I don't care about the quarterback question. If you don't put an undefeated with the wins they have, if you don't put an undefeated Florida State in, then the college football playoff is a joke. The committee is a joke. So Louisville, really bad loss last week. I mean, I know it's a rivalry game, but you're at home. Kentucky's really struggled ever since starting the year 5-0, and you drop that one at home. I think the lights are going to be a little bit too bright for Louisville. I know they've had a really good season, better than a lot of people expected. But give me Florida State in this one. I do think it'll be close. I do think it'll be ugly, just like the game they played against Florida last week. They're going to lean on Trey Benson in that run game a lot. Hope their defense gets a couple takeaways. But, yeah, I'll take the Noles in this one to win the ACC, be undefeated, and go to the college football playoff.
All right. So here's my question. If Oregon, Texas, and Alabama and Florida State win, let's just play the what if there. Because
so Oregon, Texas, Alabama, and Florida State.
If they win, who are the 4?
Oregon, obviously. Bama, Florida State, and then that 4th one. That gets tricky because, like I said, Texas.
So I'm going to stop you there. You didn't say Michigan.
Oh, excuse me. Well, hold on. Who did you say win?
If Michigan wins, they're automatically in. There's no question about that.
Oh, you're saying if they lose?
No,
Michigan.
No. If Michigan wins and everything, Michigan wins, Oregon wins, Texas wins, Alabama wins, and Florida State wins. Then what do you do?
Florida State,
Michigan's a given.
Yeah, Florida State and Michigan are givens because, like I said, Florida State goes undefeated. They deserve to get in. I don't care that Jordan Travis is hurt. They will get the shit beat out of them in the college football playoff.
So we got Michigan and FSU. Okay, so that leaves 2 spots.
And then you said Bama. Then you said Bama, Oregon, and Texas win.
Bama, Oregon, Texas win. So then you have a 1-loss Georgia, a 2-time defending national champion.
Well, Bama's
in
my opinion.
So would you give 2 SECs, or how would you figure out a way to get Oregon, Texas?
Shit, I don't even know. That's
like
tough.
what do you? That's a nightmare scenario.
Yeah, because Oregon, I mean.
So there would only be 2 locks in there because they're undefeated conference champions.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to give the head-to-head.
If Georgia if
Texas and Alabama played and Texas beat Alabama, if they're both conference champions with 1 loss, what do you do? Who goes?
I don't know, man. That's tough.
I don't know. They're gonna have to pull a metric out of their ass.
Georgia's automatically out if that happens because you can't
play. You can't base this season off of 2 years. Can't do it.
Yeah. I think Oregon's in. I think Oregon gets in if they win. Then that's where it becomes tough, man, because Texas beat Bama.
That's what I'm saying. But
Texas has also beaten. They beat Ole Miss. They beat LSU. Both at home.
Alabama has.
Yeah, they beat Ole Miss and LSU at home. They beat Tennessee at home.
That's a tough one, man. I don't know because in my
Who's-
opinion, head to
who's-
head has to matter.
Who's Texas's big wins though? They beat Bama, and other than that, I'm gonna look real quick.
Yeah, if you look that up, because to me, I think head to head has to matter
I agree.
in some way. So now you're basing the rest of it off of, because I don't think they have any other common opponents. So now
They beat Texas Tech, Iowa State, TCU, Kansas State, BYU, Houston, Kansas, Baylor, Wyoming, and Rice.
So Alabama would have the more impressive resume as far as wins go.
Yes. Then I guess that just comes down to which outweighs the other. Your resume, your overall resume, or the head to head.
Do you think it matters that Texas is ranked above Alabama at the moment?
It's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much to unpack.
But if they beat Georgia, if Bama beats Georgia, like they've beaten the best team in the country. So they'd boast wins against Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, and let me just, for shits and giggles, who else have they played?
But then on the other side of that token, then Texas could boast the head-to-head victory over that same Alabama team.
Yeah.
Albeit the time of the game and the point in the season that it happened, I think should matter a little bit. But you can't, I mean,
that's a good question, though, because you're like, yeah, Bama won all those games, but we beat Bama.
You know, I just don't.
In Bryant-Denny Stadium.
I would have a hard time if that stuff happened. It would be that argument between Texas and Alabama would be, I mean, that would be unreal. Like at what point
you can't, it'd be really hard to leave the SEC champion out. And you know the committee's thinking that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
It's the best conference in football. Like in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just that scenario was posed to me today. And
I do know one thing.
My mind in a pretzel.
I'm glad I'm not on the committee because I don't know what I do.
My God. And and for what it's worth, for all the chaos to happen, and I don't think it will happen, but you look at the strength of record, strength of schedule, and stuff like that, and you've got an Ohio State team sitting at 6 that will be idle, but it has by far the best strength of record, strength of schedule out of Texas, Alabama, and Oregon. So those are arguments as well. Obviously, a conference championship would elevate those teams over Ohio State, but that's something to look at as well. But listen, there are a couple scenarios happening here that are primed to send this weekend into a bit of a tailspin for that playoff committee on Sunday. So this is about as contentious of a college football playoff conversation as I think there has been in some time.
If Texas, Bama, and Florida State lose, Michigan, we already know the winner of the Pac-12 is the winner gets in. So winner of the Pac-12, Georgia wins, stays undefeated. Michigan wins, stays undefeated. Say Florida State, and then Florida State loses, Bama loses, and Texas loses to all get that. Like Florida State would have 1 loss, Bama and Texas would have 2 losses. Who do you pick over Florida State? And do you jump? I'm giving you false hope.
I mean, listen,
there's Ohio State jump Florida State.
I've already heard all of this. There's been a lot of people.
Or do you let Washington in?
No, I don't think so.
Even if they lost.
No, I don't think so. With the way that they've played the last month and a half, and I don't think that the Pac-12 under no circumstance is going to have 2 teams. That's just the way that I just don't.
Yep,
you're not. I still think Ohio State's wins / strength of record, strength of schedule would vault them in over a Washington should that scenario happen. I don't. That would be the only way that I think Ohio State would get in, is for all of that stuff to happen. Florida State to lose, Texas to lose, Oregon to win. I mean, it would take absolute chaos. So, I mean, I think in that scenario, that would be the only way that Ohio State would get in. Otherwise, the Pac-12 is not strong enough to have two teams in, and with the way that everything else is structured at the moment, I just don't think that that's a possibility. So,
one more scenario. So, all right, winner of the Pac-12 gets in. Say Georgia wins, Florida State loses, Michigan wins, and Texas wins. Who gets into that? Then you got Texas, Florida State, and Ohio State all with one loss.
But is Texas the conference champion in your scenario?
They are.
Yeah, Texas. Conference championship has to matter.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think Texas's win over Alabama would be Texas's
last
win
year
over
worked
Alabama.
out differently for Ohio State because the other conference champions, USC shit the bed and lost in theirs, but the rest of them, the Big 12, didn't matter at that point because they had at the very least 2 losses.
Yep.
Yeah. But to say all that, here's my prediction for the 4: Florida State, Michigan, Georgia, and Oregon.
Yeah, I think at this point, I think that is probably the most realistic.
And I know we haven't done numbers, but I think Georgia, if they win, they'll be number 1, no matter what. Michigan, I think if they win, they'll be number 2. Oregon, I think would be 3, and then Florida State would be 4. So it would be Georgia versus Florida State, and then Michigan versus Oregon.
See, the only thing that I would think in that situation is, would the College Football Playoff Committee look at that Georgia versus Florida State matchup and say, "Oh, we can't have that beat down," because it's a ratings game, whether we want to admit it or not.
That's true. I mean, because the closest out of those 4 I just picked, the closest I think Florida State could keep it in the game with is Michigan, just because of the way Michigan plays.
Yeah,
Oregon would blow them off the field.
That's Georgia versus FSU would punch Georgia's ticket to another national championship.
Unless Jordan Travis goes and sees Aaron Rodgers' doctor.
Well, after seeing the way that happened, I don't. Prayers up Jordan Travis, man, that was gross. But yeah, I mean, but sign me up for that Michigan and Oregon game if that were the case. That would be a pretty good one.
Very contrasting teams.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, Oregon flies up and down the field, and Michigan's methodical, and they move the ball in chunks, and they move it slowly, and they're not afraid to take 7 minutes off of the game clock in the fourth quarter. But yeah, it's this is going to be an exciting college football playoff. I know it's not necessarily top to bottom the exciting names that you want to see, but the prospect of a Michigan Oregon matchup, or even a Michigan Georgia matchup. There's a lot of possibility there, but this weekend is a fun weekend. It's going to be an exciting time for college football, and there's really realistically 8 teams here that are sitting here that have a chance to make it in some form or fashion. So pretty wild to think about in the last week of the season. Usually it's only 6 teams, maybe 7, but now we have 8 teams that have a legit chance here to make it in.
I did have the AAC championship written down. SMU and Tulane.
What's your opinion of that?
SMU's 10-2, Tulane's 11-1. Their only loss is to Ole Miss. I mean, whoever wins that game is played in a New Year's Six bowl, so good for them.
Yeah.
I think Tulane will win. Actually, excuse me, not Tulane. I pick SMU. I think they've won 7 in a row, something like that, and Tulane's pitter pattered through the last month or so of the season. So yeah, give me the Mustangs.
Yeah, that would be a big one. And another one to look out for that should be a pretty exciting game is the Sun Belt Championship between App State and Troy. So, App was
crazy
able a couple weeks ago.
In there beating JMU.
Yeah, a huge win against James Madison. Have found themselves in the conversation to play for a conference championship after what would label as a down year for App. And they found their way to make it into the Sun Belt Championship and play and see what happens there.
And then Liberty trying to finish an undefeated season.
There's another one. Where do they rank? Number 24?
Yep. And then a battle in the Buckeye State, Miami of Ohio versus Toledo in some action. Toledo trying to finish 12-1.
Look for Toledo's quarterback. Daquan Finn, man, he may transfer after this year, and that dude is electric. He can run it, he can throw the ball. He's an electric playmaker, kind of sort of like I would kind of liken him to a Kyler Murray sort of player. He's an electric athlete, and he makes plays, and he can he's shown that he can play with anybody, and he will probably end up at a Big Ten school next year, or maybe somewhere in the Big 12. But Daquan Finn for Toledo is a really good player. And that wraps up, I think, if you don't have anything else for the college football portion of this, that wraps up what is going to be an exciting weekend in college football. A lot to play for all across the board for the teams that are playing, and some teams that are hopeful, waiting in the wings to see what happens with those results. So moving on to the NFL, a lot of pretty good football last week in the Thanksgiving holiday. My picks are now up to, after some painstaking math.
Yeah, I wish if you guys could have seen what went on before this started recording, the mathematicians we had to become to figure out why our overall total records weren't matching in total games. It would have taken up half this podcast. It would have been it was about as unfortunate as you can get for two adult men. It would have been tough to watch. But yeah, it was embarrassing to even be in the situation off camera. Let's put it that way. But after much consideration and science over here, my overall record for my NFL picks in the season are 97 and 84. No, right. Damn, I got it wrong again. 98 and 84. My God. Well, It's spilling into the actual product. This is a problem. It's all right. We won't drag it out like we did earlier. No, we won't. Then I went 11-5 in week 12, and I'm up to 111 and 71. All right. Why don't you captain this portion of the conversation, sir, and we'll wrap this up. So we'll start with tonight's game, Seahawks at Cowboys. Cowboys coming off Thanksgiving Day win against the Commanders. Seahawks coming off a loss at home against the 49ers. Dallas is favored by 9 in Jerry World. Dallas looked really good last week, albeit against a mediocre Commanders team. I know Dallas is what now? They're 8-3, and I know they're a good team. Don't get me wrong, but I want to tell you their wins. They've beaten the Giants, the Jets, the Patriots, the Chargers, the Rams, the Giants again, the Panthers, and the Commanders. They have lost to the Niners, the Eagles, and the Cardinals. One of these is not like the other. So they've beaten mediocre or bad teams. They haven't beaten a good team. They have not beat a team with a winning record. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. They have not. So, I mean, they got a chance this week. Seattle's 6-5. It's in Jerry World. So, but, yeah, I will take Dallas in this one. I think home field advantage will win through in this one. That defense will make it a tough day for Geno Smith and the Hawks. So, yeah, give me Dallas at home. Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, too, I think Geno's playing a little bit banged up. I'm not sure quite what that injury is. I think it might be a leg. I don't think it's has anything to do with the throwing shoulder or anything like that. But yeah, with this game being in Jerry World, and with Geno being banged up, that Dallas defense can get after you if you let it. I think Dallas will come away with the win here tonight. Yeah, and then I mean their upcoming schedule after this week is Eagles at home, at Buffalo, at Miami, and then home against Detroit. So find out if they're real or not here. I'll tell you what's real, how thirsty Doug is right now. Big man got a drink. Yep. And then next up, we got Chargers at Patriots. Chargers coming off loss to the Ravens last week. And then the Patriots coming off a loss to the Giants in a battle of mid. And so Chargers favored -5.5 or -5.5 on this one. I can't remember if the Chargers were in the group of people I texted you where I said I'm never picking them again. It was them and the Commanders. Yeah, well, I'm sticking to the Commanders thing, but I'm going to deviate from what I said about the Chargers. The Patriots are very bad. Mac Jones, I think, has officially been benched. So
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to play quarterback for the Patriots this week. Maybe Bailey Zapp. Maybe.
Yeah, I think they did. I think they did announce that Bailey Zappi would be the starter.
Okay. Oh, Zapp. Is it Zappy or just Zapp?
Who cares?
Well, funny enough, the Chargers and the Bolts are going to zap the Patriots this week.
Yeah, it's yeah. You're on fire.
Too much fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, give me LA in this one. But I would not be surprised in the slightest if they lose this.
Yeah, I also have the Chargers here. If not now, then when? Los Angeles Chargers. If I'm going to pick you
Brandon
in any game this
is
year,
apparently on now that Frank Reich is fired. Brandon Staley has the hottest seat in the NFL.
I don't understand how. Now listen, I didn't like the Frank Reich hire to begin with. I thought it was a bad hire.
We'll get to that in a little bit.
We will get to that in a little bit. However, I have no earthly idea how Brandon Staley still has a job. I don't. That makes the least amount of sense out of just about anything that we've talked about on this show all season long. The Chargers losing the games that they have and losing them the way that they have, and the decision making that they've shown, and it just none of it makes sense at all. But if you're gonna make me look good at any point this season, and if you're gonna make John Ross look good at any point this season, please, for the love of God, don't lose to a team that maybe is the only team
is about to go into a serious rebuild.
Yeah, I mean they're just New England is bad, and as bad as they've been since way before Tom Brady.
Yeah,
and
Bill Belichick is probably. I hope they don't fire him. Like he's done too much for that organization for them to fire him. I think it needs to be a mutual parting of the ways or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
But Robert Kraft is about to tear that thing down to the foundations and start over. And I mean, they got 7 Super Bowls. They can deal with it.
And if the Chargers lose this one, it might happen to them too. So I'm going to choose.
I think they're a coach away, man. I really do.
Well, it's got to be something, because they've had a team that's on paper more than capable of making it to the playoffs and making it deep into the playoffs year after year, and they haven't been able to get it done. So that might speak to the coaching that we're speaking of too. But say all that to say this: I'll pick the Chargers in this one.
All right, and next up we got Cardinals at Steelers. Cardinals coming off a loss to the Rams last week at home, and then the Steelers coming off a win at home against the Bengals, on the road against the Bengals in a old school AFC North slugfest. Steelers favored -5.5 in this one at home. I'll take the Steelers. I think the defense will give Kyler Murray a tough day out there, even though he is playing well ever since coming back from that injury. But yeah, give me the Steelers, who are 7-4 somehow, some way. Mike Tomlin is a hell of a coach, man. I don't know. There's not really much else you can say other than that. He wins in spite of his team. To be honest with you, but yeah, give me the Steelers at home.
Yeah, it's I have the Steelers here as well, but it is a very interesting situation in Pittsburgh. They just fired Matt Canada, which has been being called on by Steelers fans for probably the last comfortable year and a half.
Chanting it. They were chanting it at Penguins games. They were chanting it. Any Pittsburgh sport that they've chanted it at.
Yeah, and even away stadiums, and at James Madison on Pat McAfee's show, they were chanting "Fire Canada." So very interesting to see what's going on there. They had a receiver who I think's name is Keontae Johnson, if I'm not mistaken. There, Deontay Johnson, who just completely. He said he didn't see the ball or what was happening. Just completely gave up on a fumble, which is unlike anything I've ever seen before. The ball, started to go the other way, down the field right in front of him. He didn't even really move. So weird situation going on there in Pittsburgh. But I will pick them against the Cardinals. I think TJ Watt and that defense will be, a little bit too much for Kyler in another low scoring, grinded out kind of game for the Steelers. And, you mentioned the old fashioned in an AFC North game between the Bengals and Steelers last week. And I asked one time for the Bengals to give the Browns some help, and they couldn't do that. So thanks, Cincinnati. But I will begrudgingly pick Pittsburgh in this game.
And next up, we got AFC South matchup: Colts at Titans. Colts coming off a win at home against the Bucks. Titans coming off a win at home against the Panthers. Indy's favored by 1 in this one, so basically a pick 'em. Give me the Colts. I like the way they're playing. They're rallying around each other after losing Anthony Richardson. They're leaning on Jonathan Taylor in that run game. Gardner Minshew trying to cut the mistakes down. He's more of a game taking over the game manager role. So, yeah, give me Indy in this one.
Yeah, I have Indy in this one too. I know Tennessee's
coming off too.
Huh?
That would put Indy at 7-5 if they won that.
Yeah, it's a big game for Indy. Tennessee's not playing for much of anything at all. They're not very good. I know they're coming off of a win last week, but I just don't like it. Derrick Henry's not enough to win that game. So I will pick Indy as well.
And next up, we have maybe the hottest team in the league, the Denver Broncos, and at the Houston Texans, coming off a loss at home against the Jags last week in a tough one. Houston favored -3.5 in this one. I think so. I'll take the blame for Houston loss because once again I picked Houston and they lost. Sorry, CJ. This week again though, I'm going to still pick them. I think they see if I can break the curse. I think they bounce back at home in a tough game against a Broncos team that's really, really coming into form, playing well. Russell Wilson is starting to look like Russell Wilson, playing well. So we may be eating some crow here on High Street Sports before the end of the year, but that remains to be seen. So, yeah, give me Houston.
Yeah, I'm going to take Houston as well. The Texans lost an absolute heartbreaker last week in a game where, CJ once again put the Texans in a position to win that game, and their defense just couldn't quite do enough to get that job done. That was a game where if Houston wins that game, I think it really starts to build some serious confidence for Houston and CJ Stroud. But again, CJ had a game where I think he had 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks. So, just more consistency out of CJ. And I think it was just announced that he is the AFC Offensive Player of the Month, if I'm not mistaken, and the Rookie of the Month. So, just continuing to put together a really solid rookie season for the Texans. And I will pick Houston to win this game at home against a hot Broncos team.
All right. And then next up, we got the Lions at the Saints. Lions lost a shocking one on Thanksgiving Day to the Packers at home. And then the Falcons went on the road in New Orleans and got a win. The Saints lost to the Falcons at home last week. And, Detroit -4.5 in this one. I'm sure Dan Campbell has put them through the ringer ever since that loss to the Packers. So I'm going to take the Lions on the road to get a bounce back win in New Orleans.
Yeah, I have the Lions as well in that one. I just don't really like Derek Carr and what he's been able to do with that offense.
Doesn't like Jameis Winston right now. Did you see that video?
Yes, I did. Him rapping.
Jameis is a fool.
I mean, Jameis is going to be Jameis, and I'll give him credit for that. That man has never changed, and in fact has just gotten more wild as the time has gone on. So I did see that video, and I couldn't help but laugh. Derek Carr was not having any of it, but Jameis Winston did not back down. But you have the weapons that they have, and you're not really able to do anything with it. Derek Carr's attitude is awful, and it has been all season. So I think it's really a wasted year for himself when you think about what he's coming off of, how the direction changed so quickly in Las Vegas, and he's getting a fresh start with a pretty decent offense in New Orleans, and he's really not been able to do anything with it. So I really don't like anything that I've seen out of Derek Carr, and I like the Giants, the Lions, to get a bounce back win after being embarrassed at home on Thanksgiving.
All right. And then next up, we got the team that beat the Saints last week, the Falcons, going on the road to the New York Jets. Jets coming off a loss on Black Friday to the Dolphins, big loss at home. The Jets are just falling apart right now. Aaron Rodgers, they don't seem like they'll be in playoff position by the time he's allegedly ready to come back. So if he comes back, I would be even more shocked to a lost season. And then Falcons, like I said, beat the Saints. Where in the world is that at? Sorry, guys. Excuse me. It wasn't on the road. It was in Atlanta. But yeah, the Falcons are 5-6, and I believe they're tied with the Saints for first place in the NFC South right now. Give me the Falcons. They're favored -2.5. The Jets are just a train wreck right now. There's no cohesiveness with either unit right now. So yeah, give me the Falcons going on the road and getting the win in an ugly one.
Yeah, I'll take the Falcons as well. I just, the Jets situation just kind of speaks for itself right now. I think everybody's all about Nathaniel Hackett. Robert Salah is trying to keep that, hold that team together with a shoelace, and it's really not working out for the Jets there. So it goes without saying, Bijan is a really good player and is, kind of carrying that Atlanta offense. Seems like every week he's making plays and scoring.
And they put
touchdowns.
Desmond Ridder back at the starter position too.
Yeah, which is not great, but it's better than what the Jets are looking at right now. So I will take the Falcons.
And next up, we got the Dolphins, team that beat the Jets last week, going on the road to Washington. Washington just fired defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio after a big loss on Thanksgiving Day in Dallas. And Dolphins favored -9.5 in this one. Even if I know I said I was never going to pick the Commanders again, and even if I didn't say that, I wouldn't pick them this week. Give me the Dolphins on the road.
Yeah, I'll take the Dolphins. It would take an absolutely bananas game on both sides of the ball for Washington to be able to pull this off. So, yeah, not much more to be said about that. I'll take Miami as well.
And then next we have the Panthers at the Buccaneers. Panthers, their worst team in the league, just fired Frank Reich. Chris Tabor, special teams coach, is now the interim head coach. Thomas Brown is going to be full-time play caller now, offensive coordinator. Jim Caldwell, veteran head coach, will be kind of assistant to both of them. Bucks favored -5 in this one. Baker's probably going to play. It's in Tampa Bay. The Panthers are just a train wreck. So, yeah, give me the Bucks. I just hope the message right now on offense is just try to simplify things for Bryce. I know he's running for his life almost every play. But, yeah, Bucks.
Yeah, I will also take the Buccaneers here. I did see a stat, and you're not going to like it.
It would not surprise me in the least if the Panthers won this. I don't know what it is about teams coming like the following game after a coach gets fired midseason, but
that's a perfect segue into what I was about to say. They have not been eliminated yet.
Yeah, but stop.
There is still a mathematical chance for the Panthers to host a playoff game.
Yeah,
however, it would need to start this week. It would need to start this week, and I don't think that they have enough to beat the Bucks. So
to all the Panthers fans like putting stuff out there about how we still have 5 division games left and the division's down. Like, have you watched this team play this year? They ain't winning shit. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't win another game the rest of the year. I'm not going to pick them in any of the games the rest of the year. I'm not even going to watch them.
I kind of, I was trying to maybe catch lightning in a bottle and maybe get lucky last week, and it didn't happen.
I don't know. I saw you pick that, and I just shook my head. I don't.
Well, is what it is.
You're a better Panthers fan than I am.
Well, I did it for you, buddy.
Well, thanks. They don't do anything for me, so I appreciate it. Yeah.
Bucks.
Yeah. Moving on from that one. Probably the game of the week, 49ers at Eagles, 2 top teams in the NFC. Probably most likely going to be America's game of the week. San Francisco actually favored in this one -3. Eagles won a thrilling game last week against the Bills in overtime. Jalen Hurts put that team on his back. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Keeps proving it every week. 49ers looked like the Niners last week against the Seahawks on the road. Offense was churning. Defense played really well. I'm going to take Philly, though, at home. I like the home field advantage. I think they're going to feed into that not being favored at home. So, yeah, give me the Eagles in this one.
I will go the opposite direction. I do see what Jalen Hurts has been able to do the last 2 weeks. He is playing at an otherworldly level, and I don't think there's really anything that you can say to take that away from Jalen Hurts. However, I really think that the addition of Chase Young kind of will make this a tough game for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offensive line. To have to worry about all of those options that the Niners have to get after the quarterback is going to make it difficult for Jalen to be able to stand in the pocket and make throws. However, you've seen what he's been able to do with his legs, so that adds another wrinkle to his playmaking ability as well. However, I do like the way that San Francisco is playing, and they kind of went through that little down spot a couple weeks ago, but they seem to have kind of figured that back out with some key additions. Christian McCaffrey keeps playing at an unbelievable level. They've got a gamut of receivers that can make plays. So I like the Niners to go on the road and get a big win.
All right, I think that's the first time we've deviated. So nice. And then next up, we got the Cleveland Browns at the Los Angeles Rams. Browns coming off a tough one last week on the road against the Broncos. Offense is just going through it right now. Injuries just decimating this team. And then I saw where Joe Flacco is now the number 2 quarterback and could stand to start this week if Dorian Thompson-Robinson can't go. LA favored -3.5. I think the Browns defense can keep them in this one, but I think the Rams will pull this one out.
Yeah, it's really, really disappointing that the Browns are going to have to turn to Joe Flacco at quarterback potentially in this game.
Will it be elite Joe Flacco?
That's probably not. Did you see him play last year in New York? Which now, granted, not much of anything for that team last year was any good for the Jets. But I can't help but think, and I told you when this happened, why not call Cam Newton if you're Cleveland? Like, I just don't understand.
He even said on his pod or something recently he would listen if they reached out to him.
He stated that he's wanted to play. He said that since last year. He said that earlier this year. Why would you not call Cam Newton? And I don't know. That to me just didn't make any sense. Joe Flacco, is what it is. I just, for the Browns to keep up in the race in the AFC North, they have to win this game. They can't afford, because like I said, I think Pittsburgh beats Arizona this week. And, a pick that we're going to make later will help, the Browns. But I think for the way that the season's going, the Browns have to win this game. I do think, as it stands right now, I think that Dorian Thompson-Robinson will be able to go, provided that changes. This might look a little bit different for me, but I'm still not huge on how good the Rams are. I know being on the road does make a difference. However, if the Browns want to get to where they want to be, they're going to have to win a game like this with the chips stacked against them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick the Browns. And they got embarrassed a little bit last week against the Broncos. Again, an unfortunate exit for DTR in that game, which I think contributed to a lot of that. So I think the Browns, hopefully can come back and get a bounce back win against the Rams.
I love it. A fan through and through. A better fan than me.
Yep.
You have more of a reason to be a better fan. I don't. Moving on. Sunday night football. Kansas City Chiefs coming off a win against the Raiders. Green Bay coming off a win on the road against the Lions. Like you said, past few weeks, Green Bay started to play well again. Jordan Love looks pretty good. Getting Aaron Jones back has helped. Kansas City -6 in this one. I will take the defending champs in this one though, and I think it'll be close in Lambeau, but I do think the Chiefs sneak this one out by a field goal.
Yeah, I think this is a game that you're going to need a guy like Patrick Mahomes to go make a play. And unfortunately, I just don't think that Jordan Love is at the point of his career where he's going to be able to go, make a game-winning play to beat a team like Kansas City. I did sit here, and when I was looking at the list of games and I got to this one, I did sit here and look at this one for a while. I think being in Lambeau will make a difference. Those fans are unbelievable in Lambeau, but it gets cold in Kansas City too. So that's, you can't really factor that in as a decision maker in that one. But I think to bring back a phrase from episodes past, I think this is a situation of which quarterback do you trust more? And it's got to be Patrick Mahomes. So I will pick the Kansas City Chiefs, even though I will not be surprised for a second if Green Bay were to pull this one out.
Yeah, I agree. And last Monday Night Football game kind of lost a little bit of its luster since Joe Burrow was ruled out for the season. Bengals at Jags. Jags coming off a win on the road at Houston. Bengals coming off a loss to the Steelers. Jacksonville's favored -8 in this one. I just think the Bengals, just the quarterback situation, is just unfortunate for them right now. So yeah, give me the Jaguars at home. Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and that crew. Give me them getting the win in Duval.
Yeah, I mean, they were able to squeak a win out against a very game Houston Texans team last week. And like, as you said, with Jake Browning at quarterback, he made an unbelievable error in a pick last week against Pittsburgh that, Cincinnati was still very much in it in the third quarter when Jake Browning threw that pick, and it just kind of, the wheels fell off from there. They couldn't move the ball after that. So, unfortunate situation for Cincinnati, but I think Jacksonville finds a way to pull this one out at home.
Yeah, that's it for our Week 13 NFL slate.
All right. So, as we mentioned, there's a lot going on in the football world this week. And, it's going to be a fun weekend for college football, fun weekend for the NFL as the playoff picture starts to kind of shake itself out and things start to get tighter and tighter as the weeks go on. We're at the point in the season where everybody's hurt, but you still got to go play the games and make those things.
You hurt or you're injured.
Yep, and you got to play both ways. So the games mean a lot right now. Division, leads and things like that are starting to get even tighter and even more intense. College football situation will be fun. We'll be here to talk about all of it going beyond for both the college football playoff reaction as that gets settled on Sunday. We will have more and more coming for you guys as these things start to heat up. So again, on the road to 100 subs here at High Street Sports. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that sub button. Like, comment, subscribe, share the pod, comment. We like all the interaction. We want to hear your questions, want to answer your questions and hear your opinions and just be able to interact with you guys more and more as we go here. So, this has been a fun one. John Ross, I'm excited to see how this weekend goes. I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.